But life sometimes is cold and cruel, baby. No one else will tell you so. Remember that you are black gold, black gold. You are black gold. Think of all the strength you have in you, from the blood you carry within you. Ancient man, powerful man, builders of civilization. All the strength you have, the blood you carry within you. Ancient man, powerful man, builders of civilization.
I'm a young black man doing all that I can to stand. Oh, but when I look around and I see what's being done to my kind, every day I'm being hung to this grave. My people don't want no trouble. We've had enough struggle. I just wanna live. God protect me.
I sat down to have a conversation with my inner child today. Told her it's
Hello?
gonna be some things. Told her to protect her peace. Cause I know that she might wanna break. She might have to scream, be yelling even when they all go. They gon' tell you shut up, angry black girl. You live in a man's world, broken rib, holding up the arms of revolution. Don't feed into their statistic, it's bullshit. The game's rigged, the same playlist of lies they design the places. CIS up in this BIH, but that's a fake win. If all black lives don't make it across the finish, I just want to live to that means as much to you. 13% divided is 40 million united.
God protect me. I just wanna live. God protect me.
David.
On a marble stair. Trying to find the ocean, looking everywhere. Hot times in the city, in a hot town by the sea. And ain't nowhere to run to, no, 'cause there ain't nothing ever free. On the corner, waiting for the train. Yeah, yeah. sister Sandy and my little brother Ray. Buy a big old wagon to haul us all away. Now, I live out in the country where the mountains high. I'm never gonna come back here till the day I die. Oh, Baltimore, ain't it hard just to live? But oh, Baltimore, ain't it hard just to live? Just to live. Just to live. You know it's hard living in the city. Hey, oh, but we gonna make it somehow. Hey, just believe it. We gonna make it somehow. Hard living in the city.
In the spirit of God, in the spirit of the ancestors, in the spirit of the Black Panthers, in the spirit of Assata Shakur, we make this movement towards freedom for all those who have been oppressed and all those in the struggle. Yeah, check it. There were lights and sirens, gunshots flying. Cover your eyes as I describe a scene so violent. Seemed like
We're just giving it a few last seconds so people can stream in, and then we are going to get started.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for joining us for this exciting opportunity to speak directly with our mayor, Tashara Jones, on the issues which affect us all. Tonight, if you're listening in and you are ready to engage with the mayor, we want to make sure that everyone, those who need support with being involved in a Zoom meeting, have all of the access they need. So if you're on your view, scroll on down to Side by Side Gallery and make sure you pin the interpreter so that you can see the ASL interpretation that is at hand for you throughout this event. Tonight's event has been made possible by the work of the Close the Workhouse and Defund campaigns, Defund, Re-envision, Transform campaigns, which are anchored down organizationally by Action St. Louis, Forward Through Ferguson, Freedom Community Center, CAPCAR, and Arch City Defenders. Shout out to everyone joining us from those orgs. We thank them for bringing us together. And of course, we thank our mayor, Tashara Jones, for valuing and loving the constituents of this city in this way, taking the time to listen to our questions directly and sharing her insights as a response. And last, of course, but not least, we thank you, all of you who have dedicated some time to be here tonight. So to all of you who submitted your questions, your dedication to this city is exactly why we are here. I'll be your moderator this evening. My name is Michelle. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the senior pastor at St. John's Church, the beloved community on North Grand in St. Louis City. But tonight we're here to freedom dream, to take the time as a community together to honestly share exactly what we see are the issues keeping our communities, all of our communities, from accessing their highest and safest and most whole potential. Being together in this way gives us the chance to speak truth, to give voice to the things that keep us up at night, and to share our visions of a better future with our city's leader. These dreams may not be anything we have seen happen in our lifetime. Y'all, we have never lived in the future that we're trying to create, but how fitting it is that we know that when we get together and listen and center the voices of those most impacted by violence, whether it be personal or systemic, we know that we can get to the root of that violence and capture the most effective solutions. Why? Because we keep us safe. This town hall has been called to speak on the issues involving public safety concerns that took a key role in our mayor's campaign for office. And we're here to follow up on those promises, the ones we heard about, the decisions we would like to see made. A major point of concern is that the infamous workhouse, the St. Louis City Medium Security Institution, is not yet closed, though our mayor has made the public commitment to do so. We have seen an uptick in police killings, which is a major public safety issue to us. How are we reinvesting defunded allocations into actual alternative approaches to public safety? We recognize that the current system isn't working. It's not working towards the needs of every community in this city. So what are our alternatives? We believe we'll find them here. A few rules and some community agreements, and then I'll be out of your way. I would be remiss if I did not share our community agreements for tonight's shared space. As we move forward tonight, please keep in mind that our hosts and support team will do their very best to always keep airways clear so everyone can hear. And don't be offended if you get clicked on mute. We want to make sure everyone can hear the meeting. There's one mic. We're going to try to pass it with as much respect as possible. Because this is a shared space, please let's try to show each other grace. Finally, remember this event is being recorded. If there's something going on around you, you don't want it to be seen, you ought to take it off the screen. Now, I'll hand it off to the organizers holding down the campaigns that sponsor tonight's discussion, Jay Shepard and Inez Bordeaux.
Good evening. My name is Jay Shepard. My pronouns are they, them, theirs. I am the abolition organizer at Action St. Louis. And I want to thank you all for attending today's Re-envisioning Public Safety Town Hall. This town hall is put on as a joint effort of the Close the Workhouse campaign and the Defund, Re-Envision, Transform campaign. Defund, Re-Envision, Transform is a grassroots campaign anchored by Action St. Louis, the Coalition Against Police Crimes and Repression, Forward Through Ferguson, Arch City Defenders, and the Freedom Community Center. We started this work because our current system has not only failed to keep our communities safe, but has resulted in the deaths of too many people to name by police and other forms of state violence. We cannot arrest and incarcerate ourselves into real public safety. It's from our deep relationships in the St. Louis community that we launched this campaign early last year, following the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud Arbery, and well over 179 St. Louisans who died in jail custody and at the hands of police since 2009. We are demanding the defunding of the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, the re-envisioning of public safety, and the complete transformation of our region through divestment from systems that surveil, punish, incarcerate, and kill Black people and others in our community. We want to see the money spent on meeting our community's needs and on programs that actually keep us safe. Last year, we organized over 30 community members to testify at budget hearings. We got $4 million cut from vacant police positions and redirected into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and the Victim Support Services. We held webinars on what we mean by defund, what we mean by re-envision, what we mean by transform. We canvassed to talk to hundreds of community members about their experiences with SLMPD and what we want to see their tax dollars invested in. We held visuals for community members killed by the police and showed up for those impacted families. This year, our fight continues. We are co-hosting this town hall because we believe that the people, that we are the solution. Together, we can keep each other safe and stop putting our dollars into systems that do more harm than good in our communities. We look forward to hearing from the mayor answer your questions today. We want to thank you again for taking the time to join us and make your voice heard. Thank you. With that, I'll pass to Inez Bordeaux.
Thanks, Jay. Once again, thank you all for joining us tonight. My name is Inez Bordeaux. I use she, her pronouns. I'm the manager of community collaborations at Arch City Defenders. The Close the Workhouse campaign has been working tirelessly since 2018 to close the facility infamous for the inhumane conditions people detained there are forced to endure. We've all heard the stories about the rats and the roaches and the leaking ceilings and the inedible food, but there are thousands of us who lived through it. But this campaign isn't just about the conditions inside. It's also about abolishing the systems of oppression like cash bail and pretrial detention that allow the workhouse to not only thrive, but exist in our city. Lastly, the campaign demands that when the facility closes, that the people and communities most impacted by criminalization of poverty and over-policing be the ones who determine not only what happens to the facility itself, but what happens to the money saved from closing it. Over the last 4 years, we have been busy. We've packed dozens of public safety committee meetings, Ways and Means committee meetings, Board of Aldermen meetings. We had rallies, protests, caravans. We blocked traffic. We phone and we text bank. We ate ice cream and we took pictures in front of billboards. We held meetings with our alders and we talked to anyone willing to listen. And we even made some unwilling listen anyway. We even managed to secure a unanimous vote from the Board of Aldermen to close the workhouse in the summer of 2020. In 2017, we saw the pictures and videos of people hanging out the windows of the workhouse crying for help. And we've spent every moment since then making it known to every single person who has ever had to languish away inside of the workhouse that not only did we hear you, we saw you, and we were determined to do something about it. We took that moment And the people of this city have spent the last 4 years turning it into a movement. This is how we re-envision public safety. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Michelle.
Thank you all. Thank you for sharing the incredible work that you have dedicated to this city for the past 4 years. Now, we're going to hear from the mayor of the city of St. Louis, Tashara Jones.
Good evening. I'm Tashara Jones, and I use the she, her pronouns, and I want to thank you for having me today. I want to thank Action St. Louis and Arch City Defenders and the Deaconess Foundation and everyone involved in tonight's town hall. See, this isn't new for me. I held a series of evening town halls to engage community members around public safety issues, including domestic violence and homicide, and our search for our next police chief. I truly believe that the people closest to the problem are closest to the solution. And that's why spaces like this are important to engage the community. I want St. Louis to win again. And everyone, regardless of the color of your skin, who you love, how you worship, your zip code should not dictate your opportunity. As the first mayor in over 20 years to be born, raised, and still live in North St. Louis, I recognize how we need to take a holistic approach to public safety. I understand how decades of intentional disinvestment in Black and Brown communities has made our entire city less safe, because St. Louis cannot succeed if half of it is left to fail. My family has felt the pain of losing a loved one to gun violence. This is personal for me, and it's personal for people across St. Louis. Violent crime is an issue that reverberates across every community in our city. The status quo has failed our city. If old methods work, if locking people up for every minor offense for decades made us safer, we'd feel better in our neighborhoods. But many of us still don't feel safe, and that's the problem. That's why reimagining public safety is top on my priority list as mayor. Reversing decades of intentional disinvestment in Black and Brown communities is top on my priority list, because we cannot keep locking people up and locking them out of opportunities. Recently, I worked with the Board of Aldermen to repeal the city's outdated discriminatory marijuana laws to help reduce contact between nonviolent offenders and our incarceration system. Because we know locking someone up for smoking marijuana is not going to make our neighborhoods any safer. But here are some principles that guide me in this work. Improving physical safety, holistic solutions that address the root causes of crime, and responsive governing, like how I'm doing tonight, hearing from you, the community. From the Missouri legislature to the state's attorney general, we face a deep well of opposition to new and innovative ideas. But I am committed to using every tool in the prevention toolbox to make our neighborhoods safer. When I ran for mayor, I committed to closing the notorious jail commonly known as the workhouse. Let me be clear. I remain committed to that goal, just as I did when I toured the facility in my first week in office. Currently, what people think of the workhouse stands empty. The only part of the MSI facility that's in use is the most updated, newest portion in the back, and we call that the CJC Annex. In order to fully and safely close all of the MSI, we need to make the necessary upgrades to the long neglected CJC downtown. Detainees are being held in the CJC Annex to expedite these needed repairs and ultimately help us close down the entire MSI campus more quickly. As of today, there are only 515 people in the CJC and 23 in the CJC Annex. The city's website provides updates on how many detainees are in our facilities overall. Last week, I visited the CJC to check on upgrades being made to the facility's 3rd floor, which we expect to be complete sometime around the end of the month. We're making good progress on repairs, and I'm excited that we're getting closer to fully shutting down the entire MSI campus. While the ultimate closure of the MSI is the goal, it's just one portion of the work that we need to do to break the cycles of incarceration. We will keep emphasizing restorative justice programs to help our returning citizens, and we will continue to urge our partners in the U.S. Attorney and Circuit Attorney's offices to get detainees the speedy trials they are entitled to by right. Beyond incarceration, my administration is committed to using alternative methods to limit exposure to our arrest and incarcerate system and divert nonviolent individuals away from jails to get them the services that they need. St. Louis has implemented cure violence programs in 3 neighborhoods, Dutchtown, Walnut Park, and Hamilton Heights, with trained community interrupters embedded in those neighborhoods. This year, their work has resulted in 482 violence interruptions. And according to reports from the City of St. Louis Department of Health, to date, the program has engaged over 13,000 community members. I allocated more than $5.5 million for community violence interruption programs to expand into more St. Louis neighborhoods through the American Rescue Plan, and we're currently working on those RFPs. In Denver, I visited the STAR program, which connects 911 callers to trained social workers to get people support with a non-police response. St. Louis's own BHR, call diversion, diverts calls from our overstretched 911 system to connect individuals with mental health services and support. Since the beginning of the program in February, 668 calls have been diverted to behavioral health response, or BHR, resulting in 58% being diverted from emergency response. Our Cops and Clinicians program pairs officers with social workers, pairing an enforcement response with a civilian one. To date, 96% of those helped by the program since it started in February have been diverted from going to jail, and 84% have been diverted from going to the emergency room. We've created a coordinated referral system that has increased our amounts of referrals and increased connections with unhoused residents. In 2021, we successfully followed up with over 2,900 victims of crime to help break the cycles of violence. We're connecting individuals to community help, including the Crime Victim Center. We're rapidly expanding our ability to assess relationships of individuals connected to a shooting or homicide to determine if future violence is likely and how to prevent it. Recognizing the intersection between public health and public safety, in August, we brought COVID-19 vaccines to our warrant forgiveness days, helping clear over 3,000 warrants and getting about 100 people vaccinated against the virus. We're continuing this work to figure out how we can best support communities and court reminders and more notifications to defendants to decrease the number of individuals booked on bench warrants. From closing the MSI to implementing new diversion tools, my administration remains committed to reimagining public safety. And I'm proud of the work that we've done so far. Certain insiders and status quo politicians would like the public to believe that these methods make our city less safe. That's not reality. We have far more work to do to bring down violent crime in St. Louis, but between 2020 and 2021, we saw a 25% drop in homicides. It's clear that St. Louis needs a break from the past, and I'm ready to continue working alongside the community to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you for being here tonight, Mayor Jones. Not every mayor in St. Louis' recent history has welcomed the kind of discussion we're going to enter with you tonight, so we appreciate it. This is now our main event of the evening. This is our forum for public question and answer. The organizers received well over 150 questions from St. Louis community members. Given our short time with the mayor, We had to narrow it down to just about 25 questions. Now they all pertain to our key themes: re-envisioning public safety philosophy, jails, policing, and alternatives, how we keep us safe. Marquise is here to take us through how we will go through this process of Q&A.
Thank you, Michelle. My name is Marquise and I go by the He series. And for tonight's questions and answer section, those of you whose questions were chosen have been contacted beforehand to know the order in which we will call on you. Before each question, I will invite you to speak when it is your turn to ask your question and call out who will be going next. In order to keep things running as smoothly as possible, because we all know how Zoom can be, in order to get as many questions answered as possible, we have laid some ground rules for questions. We will be actively keeping time. When it's your turn, you will be given 15 seconds of tech time to get on screen if you wish to be seen and off muted to ask your question. If you run into difficulty past the time allotted, I will ask the mayor your question and move to the next question. Once on, you will have 1 minute to ask your question. We've carved out about 3 minutes for Mayor Jones to respond to each question. Please keep an eye on the Zoom chat to also be notified when your question is coming up and when there is a reiteration of these ground rules. And now for our first section that will focus on overall reimagining public safety philosophy. The first question will be asked by Justin Cole, followed by Mary Painter and Amia Cook.
Yes, hello, Mayor Jones. Again, my name is Justin Cole, pronouns he, his, him, and I actually work in the 18th Ward. I guess you hit on some of this, but my main question is, what are the short-term goals when we mentioned re-envisioning public safety? And what is your overarching vision when it comes down to public safety?
Yes, Justin, thank you for that question. So we're focused on 3 things: deterrence, intervention, and prevention. And that means making sure that we're deploying the right resource to the right call, listening to the community, using health as a guiding principle, and making sure that we're using all of the tools in the prevention toolbox, because a lot of times the state legislature ties our hands to what we can do to keep illegal guns off of our streets. We realize that we're not going to be able to do anything about gun control, but what we can do on the local level is address the root causes of crime. So not only does that come from just public safety, but economic justice as well. So in the spring, we'll be rolling out our Economic Justice Action Plan to reverse decades of disinvestment in poor communities and Black and Brown communities that haven't seen investment in decades.
Next, we have a question from Mary Painter, who will be followed by Amia Cook and Janice Banks.
Thank you, Marquise, and thank you, Mayor Jones. I think my question is kind of related to the previous one. How are we focusing funding towards what we know works for creating safety?
Yes, thank you for that question, Mary. We are we're focusing our time and attention and our money toward, from ARPA to things that work. We're about to roll out RFPs for community violence intervention programs with a key focus on not just for expanding cure violence, but other programs that work. So other organizations that have programs that have been working in the community that we don't know about, this is your time to apply. And make sure that we're working with our community partners, because again, it's not just one size fits all. It's not just one program fits all. It's going to take all of us, all hands on deck, working together in the community in order to stem violence in our community.
Thank you for the answer, Mayor Jones. Next, we will have Amia Cook, who will be followed by Rachel Remmerman and Janice Banks.
Hi, Mayor Jones. It's Amaya Cook, and I am currently a student at Harvard Divinity School. I'm in a class with Professor Cornell Brooks right now on creating justice in real time. And we were, a few students and I were assigned a proposal to work on reimagining public safety in St. Louis. And my question is, what are the biggest obstacles of reimagining public safety in St. Louis?
Yeah, thank you, Amaya, for that question. I think our biggest obstacle is innovation. We're trying things that either haven't been tried before, have been tried and work in other cities. And we have to get out of our own way. Like I said in my opening remarks, the status quo method of policing has not worked, has not made us safer. And there are so many things that the legislature is tying our hands in doing, especially, doing common sense gun safety on the local level. So we have to use all of the prevention tools in the toolbox in order to address violent crime. But that doesn't just mean, again, our public safety tools. That also means our economic development tools, because we have to fix the environment in which crime happens. There are, for example, my neighborhood has vacant lots dotting across the street. That's what my son and I wake up to every day because the builder couldn't finish that project. But imagine what my neighborhood would look like if we were able to complete that project. There would be more families and community and more people, period. So we have to change the lived environment that our people are growing up in.
Thank you so much. This will be the last question within this category. And Rachel Rimmerman asks, in addition to holding town halls, how are you involving community input in your plans for public safety?
We also have done surveys. We did a survey on the next police chief search, asking people exactly what they want to hear, what they want to see from their police chief. And we're meeting with groups that are working on the ground level in communities. We've met with some of the violence interrupters and cure violence. And we're open to, our public safety department is open to meeting with anyone who has great ideas on how to reduce crime in neighborhoods. So it's not just town halls. We have to be out in the community and developing plans that happen with the community, because one of our public safety principles is the people closest to the solution or closest to the problem. So we have to get out and in community and make sure that these plans are developed with community, not just to the community.
We are now on the topic of jails. The first question will be asked by Janice Banks, followed by Toby Matava and Tracy Spies. Okay. Janice's question was, what is the delay in closing the workhouse?
That's a great question, Janice. So the workhouse, let me back up. The CJC has not been repaired for years. And so, I'm sorry. We have to, in order to repair we have to repair the CJC. And the best way to do that was to make sure that we could move out everyone on the third floor. And so there are only about 23 people being held currently at what we call the CJC Annex, which is in the back of the workhouse. But the workhouse, as everybody knows it, that facility in the front is closed. And as soon as we are able to finish the repairs on the third floor, we'll be able to close the CJC Annex and hopefully close the MSI, the entire facility, for good.
The next question comes from Toby Matava, followed by Tracy Spies and Cheryl Cook. Okay. Toby asks, are you aware of the demands of those detailed at the CJC? Is your administration committed to addressing those demands?
I'm not aware of any recent list of demands, but I can say that we have hired a new commissioner for corrections. Her name is Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, and she's been doing a fantastic job in overseeing the repairs to the CJC, as well as changing the culture and environment in which our detainees are held. And to Cassandra's question in the chat, the CJC is the City Justice Center or the jail downtown. And so Jennifer has been doing a great job. And again, changing the environment, changing how our detainees are treated. I know that when I toured right after I was elected or sworn in April, fresh food was a big issue, and that has been cleared up. And so we continue to work day by day to make conditions better, not only for the detainees, but also for our staff as well.
The next question comes from Tracy Spies, who will be followed by Cheryl Cook and Rachel D'Souza.
Good evening, Mayor Jones. Thank you very much for taking our questions tonight. My name is Tracy Spies, and my question is, once the workhouse is closed permanently, how does the city plan to use the structure?
Yeah, so once I'm sorry, thank you for your question, Tracy. Once the workhouse is closed, we plan on having community discussions on what the city should do with the workhouse. We're not going to make this decision in a vacuum, so we will have some public discussion on what we can do with that facility.
Next question will come from Cheryl Cook, who will be followed by Rachel D'Souza and Margaret Phillips.
Hello, Mayor Jones. This question is related to the last question. How do you plan to allocate the approximate $8 million in savings when the workhouse is closed to the impacted communities? And are you planning to use participatory budgeting?
So actually, I can't answer that question because I don't know yet. But I can say that the money that we did allocate from closing or from zeroing out their budget last year went to other things like hiring more social workers. I think a portion went to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and victim support services. So those are things that we are continuing to or committed to funding.
Hi, Mayor Jones. This next question was submitted anonymously. It says, why are jails holding so many people in solitary confinement, including certified young people under the age of 18?
I'm not aware of our jails holding people in solitary confinement, and questions about the individual cases will probably have to be best answered by our Corrections Commissioner, Jennifer Clemens Abdullah.
And to round out this section on jails, on behalf of Rachel D'Souza, how can city residents support decarceration?
Well, it depends on what you mean by decarceration. But all I know is that my administration is committed to making sure that we can transform public safety and reimagine it in ways that people don't enter the criminal justice system at all. But that also means addressing root causes of crime, diverting people from or deterring people from a violent lifestyle, giving people access to the resources they need, whether that be jobs, workforce housing, affordable housing, substance abuse counseling, mental health counseling, and really addressing the root causes and the social determinants of health. And if we address it in a robust way, I think we'll start to see market decreases or continued decreases in violent crime rates.
We are now moving on to the section surrounding policing. And the first question will be asked by Margaret Phillips, who will be followed by Mihir Vora and Daniel Romano.
Thank you, and thank you, Mayor Jones. Do you have a plan for decreasing reliance on policing?
I think we already are. We have a Cops and Clinicians program that's been in existence for about a year now that pairs an officer with a licensed clinical social worker. If I had a magic wand, I would like to see a total non-police response with an EMT and a licensed clinical social worker or other behavioral health professional, similar to the STAR program in Denver, which I visited with Congresswoman Bush back in July. And I think that we already have, the right number of officers. It's just how we deploy them. We have to be smarter about how we deploy our current resources, and making sure that we're deploying the right resource to the right call by staffing up our 911 center, and make sure that our 911 operators can effectively deploy the right resources.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Next question comes from Mihir Vora, and then I have a couple anonymous questions for you, Mayor Jones.
Hi, Mayor Jones. My name is Mihir. I live in the 14th Ward. Kind of related to what you were just saying, there's been a lot of discussion of solutions that we know promotes public safety, and I'm interested in how money we already have can be shifted to those kinds of interventions. So where do you think there's waste in the police department budget?
That I'm not sure of, but what I can tell you is that through our first allocation in ARPA funds with the $135 million we've already appropriated through the Board of Aldermen, a good portion of that is going towards making sure that we have better housing options and affordable housing options. If you followed what we've done with our negotiations with our developers, we're asking developers if they want tax incentives, then we're asking them for workforce or affordable housing within their projects. So we are slated to make a market investment, an intentional investment in qualified census tracts to improve the quality of housing that's available for residents in the city, and hopefully try to bring in new residents to the city with more affordable housing options.
So these, our next questions are from individuals who have been directly impacted by police violence, namely the family members who have lost loved ones to police violence. And so I believe I'm asking this next question. Actually, if Tammy Bufford is there, you may go ahead and ask your question.
Hi, my name is Tammy Bufford. My son, Cortez Bufford, was racially profiled, chased, and murdered on December 12, 2019 by Mobile Reserve Officer Lucas Roethlisberger. The police have shown that they cannot be trusted to police themselves. So my question is, what specific steps will you take to help make sure officer-involved shootings and use of force cases are reviewed by a civilian review board that has the ability to remove the officer or place them in positions where they no longer interact with citizens in a law enforcement capacity?
So my staff and I, well, first let me say that I'm sorry that that happened to your son, but my staff have been working on some legislation with our public safety department, with our circuit attorney's office to try to give our civilian oversight board more teeth. And so hopefully we'll be able to introduce that legislation soon. The head of the Public Safety Committee has already agreed to grant us a hearing on this bill. But we have been hard at work to try to make sure that we have a process that holds officers accountable when they break the law, and also working with our circuit attorney's office to do so. And again, giving our civilian oversight board a little more teeth to be able to hold officers accountable.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. This next question comes from Tony Taylor, who asks, under the current system, numerous cases of killings by police, including the murder of my son, Kerry T. Ball Jr., have not been properly investigated by the SLMPD, circuit attorney, or the oversight board. What are you doing to reopen these cases?
Well, I can't speak on the individual cases. I know that my staff has responded to certain families with a request for more time as we work to gather more information pertinent to those demands.
The next question will come from Larry Graves.
Hi. My name is Larry Graves. My son Julius Graves was killed in 2019 during an involuntary commitment being carried out by the St. Louis police and our paramedics. So my question is, why does the city take families through long drawn out legal proceedings in an attempt to avoid compensating families for their loss? I went online, I looked up state statute, chapter 630.155, covering the maltreatment of the mentally ill. All anyone needs to do is look at that statute to determine if the treatment of the mentally ill person was inhumane under Missouri law in any involuntary commitment. Then think to yourself, under Missouri law, could you do these things to a dog and not be liable under Missouri civil and criminal law? So why is the city taking families through this misery after losing their loved ones?
Well, thank you for your question. And again, I'm sorry that that happened to your loved one. However, I can't talk about specific cases, as some may be currently under investigation or under litigation. But please know that I am very sorry what happened to your loved one.
Mayor Jones, the next question was submitted anonymously as well. It says, how will your administration combat legislation filed in both the House and Senate to place SLMPD under state control?
Well, state control. So I'm a recovering legislator, and I was in the House when we tried to get local control of the city of the city's police department. And, I want to be clear about what this is about. The only reason why we had state control for so long was due to the vestiges of slavery and the Civil War. And I think that, when you look at what's going on across our country, how our voting rights are under attack, how history is being taught in schools is under attack. This is just another one of those things to try to control the cities. But I would ask the people who filed that legislation, would you like your city to be under state control? And I think they would answer no. So we will fight against that Senate bill, that House bill, and make our voices heard that, we are capable of controlling our own police department.
The next question is, what are the characteristics you are looking for in the new police chief?
So I am looking for a new police chief who is going to be rooted in principles of prevention, deterrence, and intervention, just as I talked about. Someone who's going to be smart on crime, because being tough on crime hasn't made us safer. Someone who is willing to listen to the voices of community and involve those voices in decision-making, and someone that understands the intersection of health and violence and how gun violence is a public health crisis. And also listening to the voices of the community. We did a survey and several town halls on what people want to see in a police chief. So hopefully we'll be able to restart that process and give people options to interview the candidates themselves.
Thank you. Our next question comes from Daniel Romano.
Hello, Mayor Jones. I'm Daniel Romano. I wanted to ask about SWAT teams and no-knock warrants. We were told when SWAT teams were introduced, this was to stop active shooters. These are very small percentage of the time is what it's used for. In recent years, we've seen people murdered by police using SWAT teams and backing up no-knock warrants. Breonna Taylor in Louisville, Isaiah Hammett right here in St. Louis, and Amir Locke recently in Minneapolis, killed by the use of a no-knock warrant backed up by a SWAT team. What I wanted to ask you was, would you be willing to support, as did the mayor of Minneapolis, would you support a moratorium on the use of no-knock warrants and a way to defund the St. Louis Metropolitan Police's SWAT team and put that into a more effective use for public safety?
Well, thank you for that question. I would definitely support a moratorium on no-knock warrants because as we have seen with the cases that you've illustrated, it has not made people safer, and unfortunately, people have lost their lives, innocent people who have lost their lives due to no-knock warrants. But the second part of your question, I think we have to take a look at all of that. We are committed to transforming public safety. And in that transformation, we are committed to making sure that we're deploying the right resource to the right call. And that resource doesn't always have to be law enforcement. It could be social workers or other behavioral health providers or substance abuse counselors. So we're looking at using all of the tools in the toolbox to, again, transform our public safety to make sure our communities and neighborhoods are safer.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. This will be the last question within the policing section. On behalf, Jean asks, do you support removing police from schools? If so, what steps are you taking to ensure SLPS students are safe from policing?
So I would have to talk to the superintendent about that. I know that that unfortunately, police are only in schools where there are mostly Black and brown children, and I don't think that's right. And I'm not sure that that makes our children safer, but I would have to weigh this decision with the superintendent and the school board before making a statement on that.
Okay. We will now move into alternatives. The first question will come from Hattie, followed by Rachel Lewis and Chiquita Hill. Hattie.
Hello, Mayor Jones. My name is Hattie Swoboda-Stell. I'm the violence intervention organizer with Freedom Community Center, which is a new organization that is focused on transformative and restorative justice for serious violence in North City, St. Louis. Currently, the average number of days people spend incarcerated pretrial in St. Louis is 383 days. This has a devastating consequence to people's lives and, according to data, drives future violence. What's your plan to work with the courts to reduce pretrial incarceration? And how do you consider using restorative justice processes to assist in these decarceration efforts?
Well, thank you for that question, Hattie. I don't think that, I think that the number of days that people are held pretrial is also pretty excessive. However, that's something that I can't control. Our circuit attorney and our U.S. attorney are the people who control whether, the speed of which, when people get tried. But we do have a good working relationship with the circuit attorney's office and have been working with her since I was sworn in last April. And we have to have those open lines of communication, but a lot of things are just out of my control. But also we support more prevention methods and taking care of the root causes of crime so people don't enter our criminal justice system at all. And also, I am a firm believer that people need a second chance or deserve a second chance once they have been released from being incarcerated, as the daughter of someone who's formerly incarcerated herself. And we have to make sure that we have pathways for our detainees and people who are returning citizens to live full, healthy lives.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. The next question will be asked by Rachel Lewis, who will be followed by Chiquita Hill and Christine Dragonette.
Thank you, and thanks to Mayor Jones for the opportunity to ask this question. Could you please share more about your thoughts about models that use an independent, non-police response to behavioral health crises?
Yes, so last summer, Congresswoman Cori Bush and I visited Denver to take a look at up close of their support team assistance program, or STAR is the acronym, which was modeled after CAHOOTS in Eugene, Oregon. And they use an EMT and a licensed clinical social worker to respond to calls that come in through 911 of people who need mental health support or substance abuse support. And we looked at, they drive around in these small vans, and we looked in the back of the van, and they have what you think are common needs for people in crisis. You know, they have extra clothes and Gatorade and sanitary napkins and snacks, because sometimes that's what's needed in order to get that person through whatever crisis that they're in. And then they also have a bench that they can take them to another place. And most times it's not a hospital. It could be a shelter or other resource to help them maybe get sober. So I really enjoyed my visit with them and saw how they were really using compassion, leading with compassion and prevention as they dealt with people who were in crisis.
Thank you. Our next question will be asked by Chiquita Hill, followed by Christine Dragonette and Julia Mosbach. So Mayor Jones, Chiquita asks, how are you helping the people in the community with mental issues and those that have been falsely accused and are incarcerated?
So I can only speak to the first part of that question. We have a partnership with Behavioral Health Response that I talked about in my opening remarks. Our Behavioral Health Response, they have a diversion program that diverts calls from our 911 system to connect individuals with mental health services and support. Since the beginning of the program in February of last year, 668 calls have been diverted to BHR, resulting in a 58% decline of people showing up in emergency rooms. And then also with our Cops and Clinicians program, it pairs an officer with a social worker or other behavioral health provider. To date, 96% of those encountered or helped by the program since it started in February of last year have been diverted from going to jail, and 84% have been diverted from the emergency room.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. The next question comes from Christine Dragonette. Okay. Christine asks, what is your plan to address the lack of safe? Sorry,
I'm here. I was having a hard time unmuting.
You're fine. There we go.
I'm so sorry. Hi, Mayor Jones. My question is, what is your plan to address the lack of safe and affordable housing options, and thinking of everything from low barrier safe haven shelters to permanent housing?
Yes, that's a great question. Thanks for asking. We are, $20 million was set aside in the ARPA bill, with the American Rescue Plan Act bill, to expand options for housing from affordable all the way to market rate. And so we are in the process of putting the finishing touches on a housing plan that will hopefully build up to 200 new units in the city of St. Louis. Also, we have been negotiating with developers. Any developer that has come to us with a plan to expand market rate apartments has been asked to include workforce or affordable housing in those plans, to the tune of maybe 10 to 30% of those units. And then on safe haven shelters, we've set aside almost $8 million for safe haven and other shelters, because we want to make sure that our Department of Human Services works with our partners who are on the ground doing this work to make sure that that we have options for our unhoused neighbors, from safe haven or low barrier shelters all the way to supportive housing and bridge housing.
Great. This next question comes from Julia Mosbach, who asked, how are we ensuring houseless people in St. Louis are safe from freezing temps and violent policing and regulating in coming months?
So this year, the Department of Human Services opened a total of 607 beds, including 125 overflow beds, more than the city had available pre-pandemic, thanks to more than $7 million in ARPA funding allocated to support these efforts. The COVID-19 pandemic continues to strain shelter space and availability, and we cannot deny the impact of COVID-19 on our services. But the truth is, the city cannot do this alone. The department continues to hold weekly meetings with advocates to communicate with and work with the community. We need to encourage more providers to submit proposals and diversify the pool of providers. And we need more comprehensive programs. We need regional collaboration. This responsibility cannot solely be placed on the city's shoulders. And we're always looking for ways to improve and grow with the lessons we've learned thus far.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. This will be the last question within this section before we go to the audience. This question comes from Angelica Rowery. They asked, please speak to the fact that addressing the root causes of public safety means rebuilding long-time neglected communities.
Yes, absolutely. I talked about this in my earlier remarks. We are working on rolling out in the spring our Economic Justice Action Plan, which is our sole target, our goal is to reverse decades of intentional disinvestment in Black and Brown communities in North St. Louis and parts of South St. Louis. I'm the first mayor in over 20 years to be born, raised, and still live in North St. Louis. And so I see the vacancy, I see the dilapidated homes, and it's unacceptable for anyone to live in those conditions. But know that as long as I sit in this seat, we will make sure that we make intentional investments in communities that haven't seen investment in decades, because our city cannot succeed if half of it is left to fail.
Next question is, what are your plans, with an increased amount of jail deaths and issues within this administration? What is this administration doing to ensure transparency?
I'm sorry, that's a pretty vague question. Can you be a little bit more specific?
There's no other context given to that, Mayor Jones. I'm sorry.
I mean, we're here tonight. That's being transparent. I think that since I've been elected, I've been in this position almost 10 months now. We have tried to be as transparent as we can be, especially letting you know how the repairs are going at the CJC or the jail downtown, and our intention and commitment is continue to close the MSI for good once the repairs are complete at the jail downtown.
Next question will come from Chelsea Murda.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Jones. Good to see you. My question is around the death penalty in St. Louis. As we've seen in St. Louis County, prosecuting attorney Wesley Bell has single-handedly abolished the death penalty in that county because ultimately the state of Missouri allows the circuit attorney to make that choice. That said, you and I stood in protest of the death penalty for Ernest Johnson last fall. So my question tonight is, what sort of collaboration does your office have or plan to do with the Circuit Attorney Office in order to abolish the death penalty in the city of St. Louis?
Well, you know that I support abolishing the death penalty, full stop. However, all I can do is make my voice heard to the circuit attorney, and hopefully she shares my sentiment on abolishing the death penalty. That's really all I can do.
Mayor Jones, the next question comes from ML Smith.
Good evening, Mayor Jones. My name is Michelle Smith. I am actually with Missourians for Alternatives to the Death Penalty. I planned that vigil for Ernest Johnson last year, and I do appreciate your presence and your words of that day. I will say that we actually have a few things going that you can help as far as the death penalty, which are in the state legislature, your old people. So I can definitely talk to you about that at another time. But I really just had a comment. I wanted to talk about that, that quote that you shared earlier. I just kind of wanted to speak on that for a moment. And so I just wrote this really quick. In its entirety, that quote says, "Those closest to the problem are those closest to the solution, but furthest from resources and power." This quote is from a person named Mr. Glenn E. Martin. He founded an organization called Just Leadership USA and their campaign to close Rikers Island prison or jail. I believe that this quote has been widely disseminated without that last part concerning the resources and power among those in the nonprofit industrial complex, because those in possession of power and resources within our society, and specifically that nonprofit industrial space, are not trying to share it. And not saying that's you, but I'm just saying the fact that that quote goes around so widely without the last part about the resource and the power that needs to go to those people. I think that's not by, that's not by mistake. So I'll end this by saying that our marginalized communities, they must be provided with those resources to uplift themselves out of the suffering and struggling that they're currently in. And our community advocates and organizers, many of them on this call tonight, must be accepted at the seats of power in order to enact those solutions in our communities. So I just appreciate, your presence and, trying to work towards that. And that's
Thank
it.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
The next question will come from Deborah Loveless.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Good evening. How is the city progressing in hiring additional 911 operators? And can you update us on the city's search for a new police chief?
Yes, so we are still looking for 911 operators. We have been able to use some of our cadets in the interim, the participants in our police cadet program, but we are still hiring for 911 operators. So if you know anyone, please feel free to send them to the city website. We're also looking for trash truck drivers. There is a labor shortage in City Hall, as well as every employer, not only in this country, but in the region as well. And the second part of your question, I'm sorry. Uh-oh. You're back on mute.
Okay, can you update us on the search for a new police chief? I understand that you wanted the process to start all over again.
Yes.
So how's that going?
We are hopeful that the Civil Service Commission will restart the process. That's all I have right now.
Okay.
The next question will come from Mariah Byrne.
Thank you so much. My name is Mariah Byrne. I use the She series, and I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I have a background and experience in working with youth involved in the legal system, and I was wondering if you could speak to any initiatives that the city has to work with youth who are incarcerated and to keep youth out of incarceration, as well as to the security of the city juvenile detention facility based on the escapes from the facility in the last year.
Yeah, so some of the juvenile facilities are not owned by the city. So we can't speak to all of the escapes. However, I can talk about how our Director of Children, Youth, and Families, Will Pinkney, has been an excellent partner with our school district and our charter schools to make sure that we're providing safe and fun activities for our young people. We have to wrap our arms around our young people and provide them with opportunities to thrive and to have fun in a safe environment, and make sure that they have things to do. Because I remember when I was a kid growing up, we could go skating or we could go to teen clubs, and those options don't seem to be around for our young people anymore. So that's been a key focus of our downtown engagement and public safety initiative, where we have stood up fun activities for young people during the summer when their parents just drop them off downtown or they come downtown by their own volition. So we, again, through our Office of Children, Youth, and Families, we have been working with our partners around the city to have activities for our young people.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Our next question will come from Raj Reddy. I hope you correct me on that one.
That's fine. No worries. Thank you. My name is Raj Reddy. I use he, him pronouns. Thank you so much for being here, Mayor Jones. I just wanted to ask about something you've been talking about a couple of times tonight, but I really appreciate what you said about the COPS and clinician response program that you're experimenting with, but also appreciate what you said about moving to a potentially non-police response system altogether, like Denver and Eugene. So I'm just wondering, what is the actual barrier to getting to that point? Is it like is it the Alderman board? Is it finances? Where does the pressure need to be applied in that front?
So what I also noticed when I visited Denver's program was that they started with what we have, which is a co-responder model, and eventually moved to a non-law enforcement model. And I think that's a muscle that has to be built, right? People just have to get used to us having that as an alternative response. And we've been doing this for a year now. I think the anniversary of the launch of the Cops and Clinicians program is this month. So I think the more that the more we invest in it, the more people are used to it, then we can start to pull back on the co-responder model.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. The next question is, how much further would we need to reduce the current jail population in order to fully close the workhouse in the CJC Annex? And what steps is your administration taking to reduce this population?
So there are many things that we can do to actually reduce the population. That is under the purview of our courts and as well as our circuit attorney. However, as I stated in my opening remarks, we are in the midst of a repair project for the entire third floor of the CJC. Once that is complete, hopefully by the end of this month, once that's complete, then we'll be able to remove the 23 people who are currently in the CJC Annex and close the workhouse for good.
Great. Earlier in the town hall, Mayor Jones, you referenced your economic justice plan. Will this economic justice action plan include having resources for crime victims for housing repair, relocation, and housing resources?
Well, there already are resources for that, but I don't see why we have to totally earmark them for a particular population. Look, you know, I, as the daughter of someone who's formerly incarcerated, I know how important it is to give people a second chance and to give people access to things so they and their families can thrive. So part of that strategy will be, again, investing in places that haven't seen investment in decades. And that includes our returning citizens. I don't think we've done a good job at really taking care of our returning citizens and giving them the resources that they need to thrive. And if that's housing resources, you know, as long as we can do it within the purview of, or within the parameters of ARPA, then I'm all for it.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. The next question is, why does the city continue to contract the CJC's medical services to Corizon Health, a prison healthcare corporation with over 700 malpractice lawsuits?
Well, I can't speak to that. You know, and again, that's a question that would have to be answered by either our public safety director or our corrections commissioner.
I'll mute there. Okay, the next question. You've spoken about your support for marijuana decriminalization. Would you support broader decriminalization of other drugs and treating drug use as a public health challenge?
Well, to answer the last question first, you know, I think that the way that we have restructured our responses, especially the co-responder model, to make sure that we're deploying the right resource to the right call, includes, you know, behavioral health providers or licensed clinical social workers. We do meet people in crisis. There's a new sobering center that opened in South St. Louis that sometimes our officers or our co-responders will drop people off there so they can get connected to resources. You know, marijuana happens to be the drug right now that is being decriminalized more so than not. I would have to take a look at what other drugs are being considered, but marijuana is the only one that I think that's being considered being decriminalized right now.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. What funding can we expect to be redirected from police budgets to unarmed first responders this year?
Again, we have the Cops and Clinicians program that's been in existence for about a year. I'm hopeful to try to expand that. And if I had a magic wand, it would turn into a non-police response. But we are evaluating the effectiveness of that program. And it has been effective thus far by diverting people from entering the criminal justice system and emergency rooms. So we will continue to move along that path and develop that new muscle of using an alternative response that hopefully doesn't involve law enforcement.
Good. Earlier you spoke on engaging restorative justice practices for folks returning from serving sentences. Do you consider engaging restorative justice processes as alternatives to incarceration?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
I'm sorry. You spoke on engaging restorative justice practices for folks returning from already serving sentences.
Right.
Do you consider engaging restorative justice processes as alternatives? Would you consider, engaging restorative justice processes as alternatives to incarceration pre-verdict?
I'm sorry, I still don't understand the question. Say the last part of the question again. Would I consider?
Would you consider engaging restorative justice processes as alternatives to incarceration pre-verdict?
So again, part of that's probably outside of my purview. Again, a lot of this pre-verdict, it has to do with the circuit attorney's office, and she does have diversion programs that try to divert people from continuing in the criminal justice system. So I would be open to working with the circuit attorney to see what we can do together.
Mayor Jones, this next question focuses on Cori Bush's People's Response Act. It says, what can we do to more fully implement the ideas in Congresswoman Cori Bush's People's Response Act? Specifically, what other community-based responses in the city can the city take beyond actively supporting cure violence?
What other, I'm sorry, say the question again?
What other community-based responses in the city can the city actively support beyond cure violence?
We've already supported our Cops and Clinicians program that again deploys a officer with a licensed clinical social worker or other behavioral health responder. Also, again, if I had my magic wand, we would eventually move to a non-police response in that model that only had an EMT and a licensed clinical social worker or other behavioral health professional.
There was an emphasis on community-based responses.
Well, we also we're about to do an RFP on community violence intervention programs, and hopefully the other community, the organizations that are already doing this work will apply for the RFP.
Okay. Mayor Jones, our next question is about SLMPD. SLMPD has killed so many St. Louisans, more per population than any other major metro police department in the US, including multiple people in 2021. What is your plan to stop the killings?
Well, my plan is to transform public safety and to make sure that we're leading with compassion and deploying the right resource to the right call. A lot of times our officers get deployed to situations that they are not equipped to handle. And so having an alternative response model as a muscle within our public safety response, I believe makes everyone safer.
And as a follow-up to that, what is your plan to help and support the families who've lost loved ones to killings by police or who have died in jail custody?
Well, we have received a letter from them and have responded with a request for more time as we work to gather more information pertinent to their demands.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. This question asks, can you speak more about how the city has spent the $4 million saved from the SLMPD vacant positions last year? How effective have those investments been?
So we diverted those funds to hire more social workers. I believe the positions are up on our website, and probably people can start applying for them now. We diverted some of the money, I believe, to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, as well as standing up victim support services, as well as helping people who are returning citizens. So we're still standing those programs up now.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. Our next question will come from Velma Bailey.
Good evening, Mayor Jones and everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to ask a question. Mayor Jones, 21% of the people in the city live in poverty, and that's out of probably about 300,000 residents. And 1 in 6 children in our in the United States, and comparatively speaking in Missouri, don't have access to food, real healthy, nutritious food when they're not in school. And on the North Side, you made some very good points, and we're glad to have a champion for the North Side in the mayor's office. Is there any way that organizations that are responding at a grassroots level, who are adversely affected by the stats that I shared with you, able to have any kind of funding set aside so they're not competing with the major national organizations that already receive funding for youth services to be able to provide some real, like upfront, door-to-door services for our children for recreation and after school.
So I'm sorry, are you done?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. So I do think that there's an opportunity to reach out to more organizations that are providing services like yours. And again, through our Department of Children, Youth, and Families, which is run by Will Pinkney, I think that we can develop more partnerships with smaller organizations. And I truly believe that, you know, there are a lot of organizations out here that are doing the work and don't get the recognition. And also, you know, the RFP process can be a bit scary and intimidating for a lot of smaller organizations. So we need to do a better job as a city to provide technical support to these organizations so they can apply for and also make sure that they're doing their reporting that's required when they get grants from the city, either through ARPA or through other organizations.
Thank you, Mayor Jones. The next question is, cities across the country have allocated ARPA funds to law enforcement regardless of community pushback. Does your administration have plans to give SLMPD ARPA funds? And if so, towards what?
So the Board of Aldermen put $5 million for overtime in ARPA. And as far as I know, it's still sitting there. But that's been the only funds that I'm aware of that have been dedicated to the police department.
What efforts are you making to ensure that families who have lost a loved one to state violence are able to get access to their loved one's body?
I'm not sure that they haven't been, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I don't have an answer for that.
I also do not have the context of that yet.
We are going to take this moment to ask, because we are ahead of schedule. Thank you to the mayor for being so efficient in answering all of these questions. We are going to ask that anyone who may have a question, go ahead and raise your hand. We still have a few minutes. We want to make sure we get your question in. I am not seeing any hands.
Michael Browning.
Oh, wait, here we go. Okay.
Michael Browning. Michael, I think you went back on mute.
Yes, can you hear me?
There we go.
Yes, thank you. And thank you, Mayor Jones, for coming here tonight and speaking with us. I was wondering what you believe the effect police unions have on our ability to reform, and how we can change the culture within those unions to create a better police force when we do have police that need to respond to situations.
I can only speak for our local police union and what they can do, which is fire Jeff Rorta. I believe that he has gaslit and stoked the fires of fear in what could become a more productive relationship between the mayor's office and the police department and the police union. Currently, I believe the police union's at an impasse. So but I am thankful that Chief Hayden has been a great partner in our work to lead with prevention and lead with compassion, and also to tout how it takes everyone coming together to see a market reduction in crime, as we've seen from 2020 to 2021. which involves not only different deployment and data-driven law enforcement strategies, but also our community partners, the Urban League, the Organization for Black Struggle, Cure Violence, Focus Deterrence, and all the other organizations that are doing the work on the ground in their communities to really see a difference in or decrease in gun violence and in our communities.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. This will be our last question from Tammy Bufford.
Hi, Mayor. I would like to know, the circuit attorney has said that she's waiting on funding in order to get a civilian review board in place to investigate the police officers. I wanted to know where are we at with getting that budget approved? And also, as it stands right now, police officers have a long opportunity in order to give a statement after they have committed a shooting. Is there anything in place in order to make that they have to respond within 24 to 48 hours to, give a police report or statement?
So we currently do have a civilian oversight board, and it is fully funded. We are currently working on legislation to give the civilian oversight board more teeth, and also in partnership with our circuit attorney's office to make sure that we can put in place some things to hold officers accountable when there are police involved shootings and give her investigative authority. But again, that legislation is still being worked on. And hopefully we can get it in front of the Public Safety Committee soon and get more public input on that process.
Thank you so much, Mayor Jones. And thank you everyone for your questions, your time, and your consideration to hold this space. I'm now going to hand it off to Mayor Jones to give her closing remarks.
Well, again, I just want to thank everyone for coming this evening. I saw as many as almost 180 people in the Zoom at some point. And also want to thank the organizers for organizing this town hall. I know we had to reschedule it because of COVID before, but just thankful for this opportunity. And please know that this won't be the last time that we engage in this manner. And hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to engage in person again because community conversations are important to the work of my administration. And so I'm always open to hear your views and hear how you think we're doing and what we can do differently. So again, thank you for having me.
We're now going to turn over to Jay to give the closing call action.
Thank you all for coming to tonight's town hall. It's been an honor to call on a space like this and to have the participation of so many community members, as well as our very own mayor. We are very grateful for you. To close out, we have 2 calls to action. The first is to text defund, capital D, capital E, capital F, capital U, capital N, capital D, to 314-789-8594 to get plugged into our next events and up to date with what's going on in the campaign. Our second call to action is to attend our town hall debrief. This is a chance to debrief and plan as a community our next steps, which is going to take place Tuesday, February 15th, a week from today at 6 p.m. via Zoom. And all this information is going to get dropped in the chat. Now that you all are a part of this community, we want you all to stay plugged in. We're going to email out to everyone a calendar of our up and coming events led by the coalition of organizations who've held this space. You'll see events by FCC, FSV, Action, a movement meeting by CTW and DRT, CAPCAR, We want you all to stay engaged and plugged in. So please keep joining us. We need each and every one of you all to do this work and to make this work strong. We thank you so much for attending tonight, and we will see you all soon.